Hi everyone and welcome to a new video of Techno State. My name is Franco and today we're going to talk about self-driving cars and the basics that I think that are good to know about them. Let's begin. So first of all, let's begin with how a self-driving car works. I'm not going to go too much into detail, I'm just going to explain the basics that I think are good to know. First, self-driving cars have a couple of things that a lot of other cars have too. For example, they have cameras in the front and the rear, and they have a top-down view camera, which you can notice if you have a more or less modern car and you have a screen, you will be able to see your car from on top. A lot of cars have it, and most of the cars use this, for example, when you're parking, so that the car starts beeping if you're getting closer to an object, and it goes beeping stronger the closer you get, so that you know that you have to stop moving nearer to that object. No? In this case though, these cameras are used for that, but also for self-driving, but I'm going to explain that a bit more further ahead. Then we have some laser-based sensors. Some laser-based sensors in the front, there's a lot of, and in the back, there's a lot of these, and there's some that are specifically designed to kick in just when you are at around, I think, 4.5 meters. When you're around 4.5 meters away from the nearest object, so that the car starts slowing down no matter how hard you press on the pedal. Maybe you fell asleep or you're drunk and you don't notice what you're doing, but the car will start going slower. A self-driving car will start going slower the closer you get to that object, no matter what you do. So that's what some of these sensors are meant to do. Then we have a computer, or let's call it a processor. A computer that is located somewhere in the trunk, depending on what car we are talking about, and this computer handles all the processing of all the information that is sent to it by the cameras, the sensors, and all of that good stuff. And here is where AI and machine learning kicks in. I hate to talk about AI and machine learning, not because it's not interesting, the contrary, it is very interesting, but it's like a good song of Imagine Dragons that is, even though it's good, it has been quemado so many times by so many people and so many radios playing it that you don't want to listen to it anymore. So I'm just going to talk really short about this because I really hate talking about this, because always the same topics come up. Well, AI, or artificial intelligence, as you for sure know, works for a couple of things, and one of them is, for example, image recognition. Just like a human can see a dog and recognize that that's a dog, AI can do that just like a human can. Maybe not as good yet, but we are getting there. It can also do a lot of other interesting stuff, but I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want to. So this is very important, obviously, in the street, because firstly, a normal computer can't recognize a dog like a human can, unless it has been given specific parameters of what a dog looks like, no? But AI, or artificial intelligence, thanks to machine learning, can receive information it can receive, let's say, 1 million photos of dogs, it can analyze them all together, and it gets to the point where it can recognize a dog just as good as a human. This in the street obviously is very important because we need AI to recognize objects like cars, trucks, motorbikes, people walking by, buildings we are not supposed to crash in, and things like that. So AI handles that. AI, and thanks to machine learning, it is able to handle that. It is able to send information to the computer of what is in front of us, then the sensor detects that we are 4.5 meters away from it, so the car starts slowing down, just to give an example. So these are the basics of how it works. Then there is a couple other things that have to be taken into account, like, for example, fully self-driving cars don't exist yet on the roads. I'm going to talk about that a bit later. So you have to always be paying attention. I know it is it looks very attractive to buy a car and say this one is self-driving so I can sleep in it already, because they say that in the future you're going to be able to sleep in it, so I sleep in it now. And I don't have to do nothing. No, that doesn't work like that, and it has happened that a guy drove over a person because he was sleeping in his self-driving car, and then he accused Tesla of this, and that's not how it works. You have to be paying attention. Every brand tells you that. So another thing that's good to consider is the NHTSA, which is an association that makes sure that companies are keeping up with the standards that have to be kept up with so that a self-driving car can be in the streets. These include a lot of boring stuff, like for example brake assist and lane assist that doesn't always have to kick in, but certain things that have to be taken into account so that your car can be considered a self-driving car. I don't know if I said this before, but all the sources that I'm referring to are in the description, so if you want to know more about the topic, you can always go there and check them out. So, next up, let's talk about the SEA, sorry. This is the Society of Automobile Engineers. This society was not taken very seriously until a short time ago, where they created a way to categorize self-driving cars. In this specific moment, they defined 5 categories that goes from 0 to 5, so actually there are 6 categories. And we go all the way to 0, which is a normal car that most of the people, at least here in Argentina, have, which has no self-driving capabilities. Then we have number 1, which has some things like lane assist, cruise control, and stupid things like that. Then we have number 2, which already is capable to drive alone in certain situations and just in certain roads, which are not very complicated to program in. And here the driver has to be paying attention 24/7. You cannot rely on this self-driving technology yet. Then we have number 3, which already can drive alone through a wider range of roads than number 2, but it doesn't have no fail-safe. Number 4 does have fail-safe, which means that it can do the same as number 3, only that when it detects a situation that it can't handle, it is meant to stop and leave the driver take control of the car. Number 3 doesn't do this. Google Waymo's cars, for example, are in the number 4 of these categories. And then there's number 5s, which only really exist as prototypes, that are cars that in some cases don't even have a steering wheel, that are meant to go fully self-driving, that are meant to be fully self-driving capable, that are meant to be fully self-drivable. And these cars are still not in the road, at least not massively, they're just prototypes. So well, having had that behind us, let's talk about some of the brands that are working on self-driving cars. Obviously there's Tesla, which are not only self-driving cars, but they're electrical self-driving cars. We all know Elon Musk, we all love that meme lord. These Tesla includes cars like the Model 3, the Model X, the Model S, the Roadster, and some trucks that are going to come out soon. Then we have Porsche, that is actually working on some interesting concepts of self-driving cars. Then actually nearly every brand is working on it. Ford is working on it in association with Uber, if I don't recall badly. Chevrolet is working on it. Google with Google Waymo is working on it. And then Volvo is working on it. That Volvo is known for being one of the safest car manufacturers in the world. So obviously when they're manufacturing self-driving cars, they're meant for them to be very safe, and they want these cars to be the safest cars on earth. We'll see how that turns out. So these are some of the brands that are working on it. There's much more. I would say basically any brand that you can think of is working on it. But these are the top ones, let's say. And then lastly, let's talk about pros and cons of self-driving cars. The pros are a lot, and I'm really in favor of this technology. I think we have to start implementing it because first, traffic will be reduced. If more cars know how to drive correctly, they will be keeping distances from each other, and it will all work more fluently, because imagine it's not the same having one person. We could use an analogy like saying one person doing a job can do it more organized than if five people are working on that same job. Here it's the same. All the self-driving cars, because they in a lot of cases are connected to the internet, specifically with Tesla cars, this is true. Tesla cars can communicate with each other, and then if one Tesla car drove through a road that another Tesla car didn't drive through, that Tesla car that drove through it can send the information to the one that didn't drive through it, so that second car knows better how to drive through that road. Imagine if all cars would work like this. So traffic would be reduced enormously, and by this comes the second point, that you would be able to reach point you will be able to go from point A to point B quicker. And if we reach level 5 of autonomous self-driving, even when there is traffic, you won't have to worry about it, because you will be able to be chilling, watching Netflix in the car, instead of having to be concentrated on the road. So, well, there will be less accidents. This is very important. Obviously, a machine knows how to drive better than a human. There is accidents now, and there will always be accidents with self-driving cars, but the numbers are much smaller than with non-self-driving cars. So, well, these are some of the pro arguments. There's more, but these are some of them. And then if you talk about cons, because yes, there is some cons. First, there's an ethical question. I'm going to leave a TED talk down below which explains this much better than I can. But there's an ethical question about when accidents happen, they're usually going to be premeditated. They're not going to really be accidents when you think about it. It's going to be premeditated incidents, because a programmer had to program the way that a self-driving car would behave when it's confronted with a situation where it has to, for example, choose between crashing a bike or a SUV. The idea might be either you crash the SUV and you save the life of the human inside of the self-driving car, or you crash the motorbike, saving that life of the self-driving car driver, but the motorbike dies. The motorbike rider dies. This is explained in the video that I leave down below in the description. So first is the ethical question. Then there is another problem, which is true, that cars can be hacked. As I said before, they would be connected to the internet for a better functioning of these things, or even an engineer inside of the company manufacturing these cars can insert a backdoor in the programmation of the self-driving cars or something like that. And eventually we would see cases of self-driving cars being hacked, which is dangerous, because these cars are the ones that are supposed to keep us safe, and they might kill us if someone can access to the code, if a malicious person can access to their code. Although I have to say that this happens already with cars. This can happen already with cars nowadays, no? Cars that are not self-driving but that are already connected to the internet in some way, one way or another. So these can be hacked too. So basically that's that. The ethical question, and if they can be hacked. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed doing it. If you want to go on watching more videos of Techno State, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you won't miss any future notifications with my videos. Don't forget to drop a like down below and comment down below if there's any question that you have. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.